It was a quiet Tuesday evening when Daniel walked through the front door. His polished shoes clicking against the hardwood floor. Elena was in the kitchen, wiping down the counter after dinner, her fitted black dress hugging her slender frame. She turned, a polite smile on her face, ready to greet her husband. But then she saw him, Marcus. He stood just behind Daniel, his presence filling the doorway. At 28, Marcus was the picture of youth and vitality. His broad shoulders and muscular arms were accentuated by the tight white tank top he wore, paired with simple gym shorts that showed off his athletic build. His dark hair was slightly tousled, and his piercing green eyes scanned the room before landing on Elena. There was something about the way he looked at her, confident, almost daring, that made her heart skip a beat. "Elena, this is Marcus," Daniel said, his voice calm and businesslike. "He's going to be my new personal trainer. We're starting a new fitness regimen, and I thought it'd be good to have him over to discuss the details." Elena nodded, trying to keep her composure. "Nice to meet you, Marcus," she said, her voice steady despite the flutter in her chest. She extended her hand, and when Marcus took it, his grip was firm, warm. His touch lingered just a second too long, and she felt a shiver run down her spine. "Nice to meet you too, Elena," Marcus replied, his voice smooth and low. There was a hint of a smile on his lips, as if he knew exactly the effect he was having on her. "Your home is beautiful." "Thank you," she said, pulling her hand back and tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. She could feel her cheeks warming under his gaze. "Would you like something to drink? Coffee? Tea? Water's fine," Marcus said, his eyes still fixed on her. "Thank you." As she moved to the kitchen to pour him a glass, she could feel his eyes following her every move. It was unnerving, yet exhilarating. She hadn't felt this kind of attention in years, not from Daniel. Not from anyone. When she handed him the glass, their fingers brushed again, and she quickly pulled away, pretending to busy herself with the dishes. Daniel and Marcus sat at the dining table, discussing workout plans and schedules. Elena half listened, her mind wandering. She couldn't help but steal glances at Marcus, admiring the way his muscles flexed as he gestured, the way his jawline caught the light. He was so different from Daniel, so alive, so vibrant. When the conversation wrapped up, Daniel walked Marcus to the door. "Thanks for coming by," he said. "I'll see you at the gym tomorrow." "Looking forward to it," Marcus replied, his eyes flicking over to Elena. "Good night, Elena." "Good night," she said, her voice soft. She watched as he walked out, his confident stride carrying him down the driveway. When the door closed, she let out a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. That night, as she lay in bed next to Daniel, her mind kept drifting back to Marcus. She couldn't shake the way he'd looked at her, the way he'd made her feel. It was dangerous, she knew, but she couldn't help it. Something had shifted, and she wasn't sure she could, or wanted to, stop it. Over the next few weeks, Marcus became a regular presence in their home. He'd come over after his sessions with Daniel, sometimes staying for a quick chat or a glass of water. Elena found herself looking forward to these moments, even if they were brief. There was something about the way Marcus carried himself, his confidence, his charm, that drew her in. She couldn't deny it anymore. She was attracted to him. One afternoon, Daniel was out running errands, and Marcus showed up unexpectedly. Elena opened the door to find him standing there, his gym bag slung over one shoulder, a slight sheen of sweat on his forehead. "Hey, Elena," he said, flashing that same easy smile. Daniel forgot his water bottle at the gym. "I thought I'd drop it off." "Oh, that's thoughtful of you," she replied, stepping aside to let him in. "He's not home right now, but you're welcome to wait if you'd like." "Sure," Marcus said, following her into the living room. He set his bag down and took a seat on the couch, his muscular frame taking up more space than she expected. Elena sat across from him, feeling a little self-conscious under his gaze. "So," Marcus began, leaning forward slightly, "how's your day been?" "It's been good," she said, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "Just the usual, cleaning, errands. You know." "Sounds relaxing," he said, his tone teasing. You ever take any time for yourself? Do something fun? Elena laughed softly. Not really. It's been a while since I've done anything just for me. Well, you should, Marcus said, his eyes locking onto hers. You deserve it. The way he said it, so sincere, so direct, made her heart race. She looked away, trying to hide the blush creeping up her cheeks. Maybe I will, she murmured. They talked for a while longer, the conversation flowing easily. Marcus had a way of making her feel seen, heard, in a way she hadn't felt in years. When he finally stood to leave, Elena felt a pang of disappointment. Thanks for keeping me company, she said, walking him to the door. Anytime, Marcus replied, turning to face her. You're good company, Elena. As he walked away, Elena couldn't help but smile. That night, she found herself replaying their conversation in her head. The way his eyes had lingered on hers. The way his voice had softened when he told her she deserved to have fun. It was dangerous territory, she knew, but she couldn't bring herself to care. It started innocently enough. A text here, a quick coffee there. Elena told herself it was harmless. Just two people enjoying each other's company. But deep down, she knew it was more than that. The attraction between her and Marcus had grown too strong to ignore. And soon, their meetings became more frequent, more deliberate. One evening, after Daniel had left for a business trip, Marcus texted her, Hey, you free tonight? I could use some company. Elena hesitated for a moment, her fingers hovering over the screen. Then, before she could second-guess herself, she replied, Sure, come over. When Marcus arrived, he was dressed casually, a simple gray hoodie and jeans that hugged his athletic frame. Elena opened the door, her heart pounding in her chest. Hey, she said, trying to sound casual. Hey, Marcus replied, stepping inside. Thanks for letting me come by. They sat in the living room, the TV on low in the background. But neither of them was paying attention. The conversation flowed effortlessly, as it always did with Marcus. He made her laugh, made her feel alive in a way she hadn't in years. And when he reached over to brush a strand of hair from her face, she didn't pull away. That dress looks good on you, Marcus said, his voice low and intimate. Elena felt her cheeks flush. Thank you, she murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. The air between them was charged. And when Marcus leaned in, Elena didn't stop him. Their first kiss was soft, tentative, but it quickly deepened, the months of pent-up attraction finally breaking free. When they finally pulled apart, Elena's heart was racing, her mind a whirlwind of emotions. We shouldn't be doing this, she whispered, even as she leaned in for another kiss. I know, Marcus replied, his voice rough, but I can't help it. From that night on, their meetings became a secret ritual. They'd find excuses to see each other, a quick lunch here, a late-night visit there. Every moment together was electric, filled with stolen glances and whispered promises. Elena knew it was wrong, but she couldn't bring herself to stop. Marcus had awakened something in her, something she hadn't felt in years, and she wasn't ready to let it go. It all came crashing down one rainy evening. Daniel had returned home early from his business trip, his flight rescheduled due to the storm. Elena was in the kitchen, preparing dinner, when she heard the front door open. Her heart skipped a beat. He wasn't supposed to be home yet. Hey, babe, Daniel called out, his voice cheerful as he walked into the kitchen. I got an earlier flight. Thought I'd surprise you. Elena forced a smile, her mind racing. That's great, she said, her voice trembling slightly. Dinner's almost ready. Daniel kissed her on the cheek, oblivious to the tension in the room. But as he set his bag down, his phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, his expression shifting from confusion to disbelief. What the hell is this? He muttered, scrolling through a series of messages. Elena's stomach dropped. She knew exactly what he was looking at, the texts between her and Marcus. She had been careless, forgetting to delete them. Daniel, I can explain, she began, her voice shaky. But Daniel wasn't listening. His face was a mask of anger and betrayal as he turned to her. Explain? Explain what, Elena? That you've been cheating on me with Marcus? My trainer? My friend? The words hit her like a punch to the gut. She had no defense, no excuse. "I'm sorry," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "I never meant for this to happen." Daniel's voice was cold, his eyes blazing. "You never meant for it to happen? How long has this been going on? Elena? How long have you been lying to me?" Elena couldn't answer. The guilt was overwhelming, suffocating. She had known it was wrong. But she had let herself get swept up in the excitement. The passion. Now, the consequences were staring her in the face. Daniel grabbed his keys and stormed out of the house, slamming the door behind him. Elena collapsed onto the floor, sobbing. She had lost everything, her husband, her marriage, her sense of self. And for what? A fleeting moment of happiness? Later that night, Marcus called. "Elena, I heard what happened," he said, his voice filled with concern. "Are you okay?" "No, Marcus, I'm not okay," she replied, her voice breaking. "This was a mistake. We were a mistake." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. "I'm sorry," Marcus finally said. "I never wanted to hurt you. But the damage was done. The truth was out, and there was no going back." The days that followed were a blur. Daniel moved out, leaving Elena alone in the house they had once shared. The silence was deafening, a constant reminder of the life she had destroyed. But as the weeks passed, Elena began to realize something. She couldn't stay stuck in this cycle of guilt and regret forever. She had to face the consequences of her actions and find a way to move forward. One morning, she woke up with a sense of clarity she hadn't felt in months. She made herself a cup of coffee and sat at the kitchen table, staring out at the backyard. The sun was shining, the birds were chirping, and for the first time in a long time, Elena felt a glimmer of hope. She decided to start therapy, something she had been putting off for years. Her therapist, Dr. Patel, was kind and patient, helping Elena unpack the emotions she had been burying for so long. "You made a mistake," Dr. Patel said during one of their sessions. "But that doesn't define you. What defines you is how you choose to move forward." Elena took those words to heart. She began to focus on herself, her dreams, her passions, her sense of self-worth. She started painting again, something she had loved in her younger years but had abandoned when life got too busy. The act of creating something beautiful brought her a sense of peace she hadn't felt in years. She also reconnected with old friends, people she had drifted away from during her marriage. They welcomed her back with open arms, reminding her that she wasn't alone. "We've missed you," her best friend, Sarah, said one evening over dinner. "It's good to have you back." As for Marcus, Elena knew she had to let him go. Their relationship had been built on secrets and lies. And while she would always care for him, she knew it wasn't healthy to hold on to something that had caused so much pain. She sent him a final text, thanking him for the moments they had shared but explaining that she needed to move on. Daniel, too, began to heal. They met for coffee one afternoon. The first time they had seen each other since the separation. It was awkward at first. But as they talked, Elena realized that they both had grown in their own ways. "I'm not saying I forgive you," Daniel said, his voice steady, "but I'm learning to let go of the anger. I hope you can do the same." Elena nodded, tears welling up in her eyes. "I'm so sorry, Daniel, for everything." "I know," he replied, "and I'm sorry too." In the end, Elena realized that life wasn't about avoiding mistakes, it was about learning from them. She had lost a lot, but she had also gained something invaluable, a deeper understanding of herself. And as she stood in her backyard, paintbrush in hand, she knew that this was just the beginning of a new chapter.